Venezuela, 115 nationals arrived in Caracas thanks to the government planned return to the homeland from Chile. In India, the government orders the army to fire the violence instigators in the state of Manipur in extreme cases. And the governments of Japan and South Korea agreed to cooperate in the operations to release contaminated water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. A new contingent of 115 migrants arrived in Venezuela from Chile, thanks to the government's planned return to the homeland. Venezuela's Ministry of People's Power for Affairs informed that the country guarantees the return of migrants blocked at the border between Chile and Peru. After diplomatic efforts between the Ministry of People's Power for Foreign Affairs and Peruvian and Chilean foreign ministries, the government of Venezuela guarantees the protection and safe return of its citizens. The return to the homeland plan implemented in 2018 has guaranteed the voluntary and safe return of nationals with nearly 180 flights, according to figures provided by the authorities. Venezuela's Vice Chancellor for Latin America, Rander Peña, welcomed the 115 Venezuelans who arrived in the country on Sunday from Chile.
On behalf of President Nicolás Maduro, we have welcomed home 115 Venezuelan men and women who were in a very difficult, complex situation in the north of Chile, specifically in Arica. Immediately we knew the situation that Venezuelans were facing. President Nicolás Maduro ordered the entire team of the Venezuelan Foreign Ministry to establish the necessary arrangement to bring Venezuelans home safely within the virtuous plan back to the homeland.
David Molina, repatriated as part of the plan to return to the homeland, expressed his gratitude to the government of President Nicolás Maduro for the support provided for his return home.
Confess that I'm spectacularly happy. I feel and we feel very happy. Well, my partner, me and my son, we must reiterate our gratitude to the government for having supported us in that sense. We are very grateful and hopefully we can also solve the problems of the people who stay there in Arica. Really very happy, very grateful indeed. Yes, we are speechless. We have been stranded for several days and we couldn't find a way to leave. But well, we are here in our land, in our homeland. Thanks to God, thanks to the government, thanks to President Nicolás Maduro, and thanks also to the Chancellor Ivan here for the statement referring to us. Thank you very much indeed.
The Colombian government rejected threats against the judges of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace issued by the paramilitary group Gulf Clan. President Gustavo Petro condemned the threats made against Magistrate Alejandro Ramelli and Assistant Magistrate Hugo Escobar by the Gulf Clan. The Colombian head of state explained that the magistrates of the Special Jurisdiction for Peace investigate the false positives and that the search for the truth is the fundamental principle of any peace process. The Special Jurisdiction for Peace in a statement denounced the threats of the Gulf Clan against the magistrates currently investigating extrajudicial executions in the country. In the document, the institution urged the Attorney General's office to investigate the facts and to sanction those responsible. In Peru, at least 27 people died as a result of a fire in a mine shaft at mining company Yanaquihua, located in the city of Arequipa, in the south of the country. According to Arequipa's regional government, the event was reported at noon on Saturday. They also detailed that the fire inside the sinkhole place in the province of Condesuyos, in the district of Yanaquihua, in its Paca sector, would have been caused by a short circuit. However, the investigations to clarify the facts are still in progress. Rescue personnel and 3 ambulances were mobilized to the scene of the incident to help in the emergency response. Monitoring activities also continue from the Regional Emergency Operations Center. In Chile, voting continues for the election of constitutional councilors. 2,932 polling stations opened this Sunday to start the second constituent elections in 2 years. Over 15.1 million citizens are called to the polls to elect 50 constitutional councilors in charge of drafting the new Magna Carta, a new step to try to leave behind the constitution of Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship. The draft will be submitted to a referendum in December. After last September, a large majority rejected the first attempt to change the state's architecture. Chilean President Gabriel Boric said the election's results will be a step forward to achieve a developed, fair and inclusive nation.
It's important that we all understand that this should not be a short-term political struggle or a fight between politicians, but how we can reach an agreement to move forward with all the opportunities we have as a country to build a fair and inclusive developed Chile, thinking not only in the next election but also in the next generation.
This Sunday, May 7, Argentina's provinces of Jujuy, Misiones and La Rioja go to the polls to elect their local authorities. This Sunday's elections, residents of the provinces of Jujuy, Misiones and La Rioja elect their governors, vice governors, provincial legislators and mayors. Likewise, in the case of La Rioja and Jujuy, they will also be voting on conventional constituent members to reform their respective constitutions. The number of electors called to vote this Sunday is close to 5% of the national electoral roll. After these provincial elections on Sunday 14th, provinces of La Pampa, Salta, San Juan, Tucumán and Tierra del Fuego will have their turn to vote. Electoral authorities also foresee that the open, simultaneous and mandatory primaries will be held between August 13th and October 22nd. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news updates and much more. Well, the story is coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. In India, the government has ordered the army to fire at violence instigators in the state of Manipur only in extreme cases. Manipur in northeast India is mired in ethnic conflicts that broke this past week. Authorities report 54 people killed, although they say the number could rise. As part of the security measures in the area, curfew has been enforced in most districts and at least 10,000 soldiers have been deployed to patrol the affected areas while mobile internet services have been suspended. The violence broke out after a protest caused clashes between the Meitei ethnic community, who are mostly Hindus and Muslims, and the Naga and Kuki-So tribal groups. As a result of the violence, several buildings have been vandalized and set on fire. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan held a campaign rally in Istanbul on Sunday ahead of the general election scheduled for May 14th. Many supporters attended the rally to show their support for the head of state, who is seeking re-election after almost a decade in the role. At the gathering, President Erdogan underlined the many achievements reached during the governance of the Justice and Development Party, or AK Party. The Turkish head of state also indicated that May 14 polls are not a question of a certain candidate or party, but rather a question of preserving the nation's gains. Next Sunday, Turkey will hold its general election with a two-round system to elect its president, while parliamentary elections will be held simultaneously. Meanwhile, hundreds of people also attended a campaign rally held by presidential candidate for the opposition Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, accompanied by his wife Selvi Kılıçdaroğlu. The opposition leader portrayed his six-party alliance, which includes liberals, nationalists, and religious conservatives, as a force for democratic change. Recent polls suggested it will be a tight competition for both the presidential and parliamentary races, which will determine not only who will lead the nation, but also what role it may play on the international scene. In Moldova, thousands took to the streets of downtown Chisinau, the capital where the presidential headquarters and the parliament are located, to protest the regime of President Maia Sandu. Protesters say the current administration has run out of steam, whereas the economic crisis in the country has deepened. In their opinion, the country's authorities have no real project to overcome the current crisis, and that is why people are demanding the president's resignation. Protest leaders have denounced that Chisinau police blocked traffic, preventing dozens of buses with demonstration supporters from reaching the city. According to sources, at least 27 people were detained by Moldovan police during the demonstrations under the charge of displaying suspicious behavior. On Sunday in Poland, the Orlen company acknowledged losses of $27 million a day due to the sanctions policy on Russian crude oil. According to the British newspaper Financial Times, the ban on Russian oil is costing the Polish energy consortium Orlen some $27 million a day in losses. Daniel Obachtek, Orlen chief executive, put the absence of Russian oil as a notable economic due to a price difference of about $30 per barrel between cheaper Russian oil and alternative supplies, the paper added. Russia, for the duration of the hostilities, became the most sanctioned country in the world, leaving behind countries such as Iran, Venezuela, or Afghanistan. For Russian President Vladimir Putin, Russia's containment policy is part of the West's long-term strategy, whose sanctions deal a heavy blow to the world economy. Also, in Russia, columns of military vehicles began arriving in the center of Moscow on Sunday to attend the rehearsal for the Victory Day military parade. In Russia, columns of military vehicles began arriving in the center of Moscow on Sunday to attend the rehearsal for the Victory Day military parade. The parade will take place at the Red Square next Tuesday, May the 9th, in commemoration this year of the 70th anniversary of the Soviet victory of Nazi Germany in 1945. Last Friday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed that the parade will be held in Moscow and 28 other cities, despite rumors of a possible suspension due to security threats. Peskov said the main parade to be held in Moscow will require special measures to ensure the safety of participants and the general public. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol and Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida agreed on Sunday to allow a group of South Korean experts to visit Japan to inspect the release of radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant. The agreement, announced following a meeting in Seoul, is seen as a goodwill gesture by Japan amid warming relations between the two countries, as South Koreans remain concerned about the water release despite ongoing monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency. During a press conference at the presidential office, the South Korean head of state said his administration hopes to achieve a meaningful step, taking into consideration the people's demands for a science-based and objective inspection. Meanwhile, Japan's premier stated his government is well aware of South Koreans' concerns of the planned water release, but vowed to do his best to ensure it causes no harm to the health of both nations' peoples.
It took 12 years to restore each other diplomacy, but it took less than 2 months for the two of us to visit each other. I think it confirms that South Korea-Japan relations, which have started a new age, are moving forward with speed. At the meeting in March, we agreed to strengthen and rebuild Japan-RUC relations in a multi-layered manner, and that we would issue commands to dispel the strained atmosphere and strengthen dialogue and cooperation. In less than 2 months since then, various dialogues have already begun and are moving dynamically.
teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat, dial 461 and enjoy Latin American alternative.
Every year, thousands of people leave their homeland to reach new horizons.
Welcome back from the south. In Egypt, the foreign ministers of Arab League member countries have agreed to Syria's return to the organization. The readmission of Syria took place during an extraordinary meeting of the foreign ministers of the Arab League held Sunday in Cairo to discuss the situation in Sudan and Syria. The decision was prompted by a request made by the foreign ministers of several Arab countries at a prior meeting held last April 14th in the Saudi city of Jeddah. Arab country leaders expect the return of Syria at the organization may help paved the way to resolving the humanitarian crisis in the country, stressing the importance of the leadership of Arab countries in efforts to end the crisis. Syria had been suspended from the Arab League in November 2011, several months after the outbreak of armed conflicts in that country. On Sunday, at the Arab League meeting in Cairo, Sami Shukri, Egyptian foreign minister, called to seek a peaceful solution to the Syrian conflict without interference by promoting the political way within the parties involved.
The Syrian crisis has proved that there is no military solution and not winner, no loser in that conflict. We are totally convinced that the only way to resolve the crisis in Syria is the political solution that totally comes from inside Syria without any external interference.
Experts from Saudi Arabia assured on Sunday that reconciliation with Iran will have a positive influence on the whole Middle East region. Tehran's presence in the kingdom ended in 2016 after relations between the two nations were severed over the execution of an Iranian cleric by Saudi Arabia. The two countries support opposing sides in several regional conflicts and accused each other of engaging in a series of armed attacks within their own territories over the past few years. Previously, Saudi Arabia and Iran announced the resumption of diplomatic relations effective immediately on April 6 in Beijing, with China's Minister of Foreign Affairs Qin Gang witnessing the historic moment.
The agreement mediated by China will push the bilateral ties to more comprehensive cooperation in the whole region, one that will include economic, political, security, cultural, and trade relations. Iran's nuclear issue is a big concern for the kingdom. The kingdom supports nuclear energy for peaceful purposes, not for military purposes. Iran has to be transparent and cooperative in this regard.
The National Meteorology and Hydrology Service activates orange alert for possible river overflows in Cochabamba and La Paz. The alert will be in effect until May 8th, Tsunami reported that rains are expected in La Paz, Beni, Pando, Santa Cruz, Tarija, Oruro, and Potosí, and snowfalls in the highlands. The orange alert was issued due to rising rivers in the north of La Paz and part of Cochabamba, and authorities reported that on the road to Yungas in La Cumbre sector, there were incidents due to heavy snowfall. Meanwhile, Bolivian Highway Administration in La Paz reported that there have been landslides on the Unduabi-Chulumani road, so they are calling on carriers to drive with caution. Authorities in the Canadian province of Alberta declared a state of emergency after wildfires spread across the western province, driving nearly 25,000 people from their homes. Faced with more than 100 wildfires, Alberta's Premier, Danielle Smith, called the situation unprecedented. The Premier added that a hot, dry spring had created a lot of kindling and more than 100,000 hectares had burned so far. In this sense, local authorities said many of the fires are burning out of control, fanned by strong winds. The worst hit areas include Ditron Valley, west of the provincial capital, Edmonton, and Fox Lake, where 20 homes were consumed by the blaze. The death toll from flash floods and landslides in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo rose beyond 200 people, with many more still missing. According to local authorities in the province of South Kivu, torrential rains caused a river to overflow on Thursday and led to significant damage and loss of life in the villages of Buchuchu and Yamukubi. In this sense, Thomas Bekenge, administrator of Kalahe, the worst hit territory, confirmed that over 200 bodies had been recovered so far, but that efforts to find others were continuing. Meanwhile, in the village of Nyamukubi, rescue workers dug through the ruins looking for survivors. Likewise, President Felix Tshisekedi declared a national day of mourning on Monday to honor the victims, while the central government sent a crisis management team to South Kivu to support the provincial government. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For teleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.